behind the scenes, the Royal Report.
Good evening, welcome to the Royal Report. I'm Caroline DeRusso. Here's what we've got coming up for you on the program tonight. The King returns to work and makes an emotional confession. Prince William divides opinion as he weighs in on the Israel-Hamas war. And former President Donald Trump takes aim at Prince Harry, calling him a traitor. But before we get to all that, this week has seen the royal family steady itself and refocus on core business. Prince William visited the Red Cross, Queen Camilla awarded the Queen's anniversary prizes in higher and further education, and King Charles made a slight but important return to royal duties. First step, attending to mail from well-wishers. So many letters, many of them handwritten, and so many kind words. It does remind us of the good the royal family does and the goodwill of the British public. And as the King told Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, they made him quite emotional.
I've had so many wonderful messages and cards, and
I can imagine.
It's reduced me to tears most of the time.
Well, I can imagine.
Now, this may not seem to be a hugely onerous task, but it is highly symbolic. We know the King has already undergone one surgery and he will have to undergo a course of treatment for his cancer. Obviously, he'll have to continue to be heavily supported by the other working royals and is unlikely to return to significant or full-time duties for the time being. But to the extent he's able to undertake some official tasks, it shows there is some progress, even if he is relegated to desk duties for now. It's important for the family to have the boss back on the tools, and it's good for the public to see that its source of cultural stability, the royal family, is returning to some sort of normalcy. Even just seeing the red box is a great source of relief. Joining us now is Daily Express Royal Roundup host Pandora Forsyth and royal commentator Angela Mollard. Angela, the King is back in some official capacity. He's been moved by well-wishers. Tell us about the sort of support he's received.
Yeah, he's got all these cards and letters, and some of them are just gorgeous. And as you said, Caroline, homemade, very thoughtful. He's very touched. You know, he knew that there was a camera and a microphone on him when he was speaking to Rishi Sunak, so he was perfectly happy with saying about how much it had impacted him. And I think what's really interesting about this is that we knew how much the late Queen Elizabeth, was admired, but the King Charles was an unknown quantity. His mother was so beloved that he must have come into this post believing that, you know, he had a lot of goodwill to earn. As it happens, that goodwill is there. I think a lot of people feel this man has, at 75, just stepped into the job. He's not even a year on for the coronation, and he's been diagnosed with cancer. And I think there is a lot of goodwill, not only for the fact that he is now obviously suffering, he has an illness which he has to treat, but the very fact that he's been incredibly transparent about it. It's totally different from his mother's approach to these things, but I think he's read the room, and the Carolean age promises to be quite interesting.
Now, Pandora, the palace has released this footage of all this mail coming in for the King, and they've put that on their social media. Do you think part of the reason for this is about giving comfort to the British people? What message are they sending the public?
Yeah, absolutely. It's showing that the King is working behind the scenes, despite you know, an awful scare with the cancer which he's going through with treatment at the moment. It's showing, you know, a very positive side to it. I think he's also trying to connect with families who are affected by cancer, and to show that, you know, cancer's not the be-all or end-all, and just because you have that diagnosis, obviously varying diagnoses do mean different things in terms of your health, life, obviously, but it does mean that he's getting on with things and he's trying to be as positive as possible. It was quite sweet, the card that they showed on social media. Of course, it led with dogs because of his love for corgis, the late Queen, and of course Camilla, who also loves dogs. She's a patron for the Battersea Dogs Home here in London, and it was so sweet. It had a little cone on it, and it said, "Well, at least you don't have to wear a cone," which was so sweet. But I think they're just trying to show a very positive message here, to show that he is getting on with things. No, we might not be seeing as much in public engagements, but he's cracking on, he's doing the job, and to still have faith that he is the monarch, and he is getting on with life as much as he can, and as much as normally as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Angela, we've spoken several times on this show about Harry's admission to drug taking and how that could cause visa issues for him in the US. Now, apparently this could also become a political issue. And how is that?
Well, look, Donald Trump has come out and said that, if he is re-elected, that he's basically got no time at all for Harry, and that he didn't show respect to his grandmother, the Queen, and that while Trump claims that Biden has been particularly soft on Harry, he's not going to take the same stance. Now, this all comes about because, of course, in Spare, Harry admitted to drug use. He admitted to several drugs, cocaine and marijuana among them, and a group called the Heritage Foundation is pressing ahead with trying to get a court case which reveals Harry's immigration papers to see whether he in fact lied on his immigration papers when asked whether he takes drugs and whether he had taken drugs. Now, of course, Nigel Lawson in the past, the celebrity chef, she had been denied entry to the United States for confession of drug taking in the past. That, of course, was she had a dispensation and that was waived further along. But there's a great interest in having some clarity around Harry's status and his visa status in America. So it'll be an interesting one to watch.
Absolutely. And Pandora, like Angela just said, former President Donald Trump, he weighed in on this debate today. He told your US colleagues the royal family had been too gracious to Prince Harry and that he wouldn't protect him like Joe Biden had done. Trump is furious that the Biden administration for protecting Harry by keeping these immigration application documents confidential. He apparently said, "I wouldn't protect him. He betrayed the Queen. That is unforgivable. He would be on his own if it was down to me. I think they've been too gracious to him after what he has done." What are your thoughts on that? They're strident words.
Yeah, they are indeed. And the fact that he mentioned his late grandmother as well, I'm sure, will not go down well with Prince Harry. But will Prince Harry really take notice of what Trump is saying? Perhaps not at this time, but give it a couple of months and he might just have to. So, yeah, not good news on that front. And also, it's just shining a light on issues that he knew would have been publicised with his book. And it's coming about again. So I do wonder... this is just speculative, but perhaps maybe Harry is regretting revealing so much because this might affect his life, his children's life, his wife Meghan. It might, further down the line even lead to them having to come back to the UK, which is what they wanted to escape from all the noise that was coming from the UK. And they've been so open about their time here, as we all well know. So Trump's comments won't go down well, and I'm sure they'll be coming back to Harry as we speak.
And Angela, just before we move on, I just want to go back to the point about Nigel Lawson and her confession. The argument being made here is that there's no proof that Harry took drugs. Given the Nigel Lawson situation, isn't that argument just a bit cute?
Yeah, it's an interesting argument, isn't it? Because by saying, how do you prove it? If somebody has actually said it in their autobiography and confessed to it themselves, then surely that's the greatest proof of all. I mean, it's not something you're going to fess up to if you probably haven't done it. So it's a really weird defence, I think, that from the American officials that, just because he said he did it doesn't prove that he did it. Well, I mean, how do we prove that anyone does it unless we actually catch them in the act? So very extraordinary logic from my point of view.
Yeah, I thought so. And speaking of Harry, Angela, I'll stay with you. It's been reported this week that Prince Harry has been left out of the royal family contingency planning. And despite the overtures of the last couple of weeks, this can hardly be a surprise to you, can it?
Oh, seriously? This guy can be in the contingency plan? This is the person that they have contingency plans against. You know, he's not going to be part of Team Windsor going forward at all. There's been some murmurings about the fact that sort of Harry has possibly suggested that he'd step in and help. There's been some suggestion from palace sources or people adjacent to the royal family that you know, of course, the king would not be wanting Harry to be involved. Look, that's a long way off. Harry has chosen to move away from his family. You know, I don't think the king wants him to be doing any of this work. The king is wanting to, as we've just discussed, show that he is still doing some work. Prince William, of course, has done some investitures for him, and that sort of work will have to be done by others. But we will not be seeing Harry back in Royal Incorporated anytime soon. I can promise you that.
Also very strident and emphatic words. And Pandora, we understand Prince William was particularly opposed to Harry returning to assist with royal duties. What do we know the story behind that? And I'm sure that probably doesn't surprise you either.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either. Shock. Look, we all well know that Harry came over. He came to see the king at quite, last minute notice. Fine, that did sort of bring some sort of public opinion back on his side. But whilst he was here, he had the opportunity to see his brother and vice versa. And in times of need, you'd really think that the brothers would come together. Come on. Like, they're family. They should be coming together. He's by himself. He's not bringing Meghan or the children. Catherine's recovering. You know, they could have really seen each other then. They didn't. That says it all, really, doesn't it? In a time of need, where the family really needs the support the most, they couldn't come together as two grown adults in a room and really talk it through. That just says it all, really. And the issue Harry is trust. Because whatever conversations that they have with each other in these rooms, how does William know that it's not going to get back into a book, into a podcast, into an interview? He just doesn't know that's going to happen because of Harry's track record, which is the issue here moving forward. If they want a full reconciliation, then how is that going to happen with someone where you don't know whether you can trust them or not? And the whole point of relationships is they are built on trust. And unfortunately, the trust is entirely broken down between the brothers. The king, however, we are seeing some slight improvement on the relationship. Take what you want from a 40-minute meeting coming that far. But, it was still a meeting. So, there are some pros there, I suppose.
Now, Angela, Prince William, he visited the British Red Cross this week. What was the purpose of this visit?
Look, he wanted to see what the Red Cross was doing in terms of humanitarian efforts in Gaza. He spoke to people there. He also spoke to the psychosocial team who support the mental health of those working for the charity and those in the position. There's going to be more visits to the Red Cross. And in fact, he's also visiting a synagogue this coming week. So he is involved. Look, it is a political situation, and he did make a statement about Gaza that is fairly atypical of the royal family. They tend to stay out of these matters. But on this occasion, his words were chosen very carefully, and he really focused on the human loss. It wasn't a political statement really at all.
Yeah, and look, that particularly in these circumstances and in relation to that particular conflict, it's a fine line. Now, Pandora, there are reports that Harry and Meghan are having a work divorce. What is this about and why?
Yeah, they've had so many rebrands now. I mean, we'll talk about this later probably, but they're having to find work. They need to become financially independent. When they first left the royal family, they were inundated with offers from Netflix, from Spotify, book deals, you name it. They were all flooding in. But they've released so much already, and they need that royal family tie in order to say more, because that's the reason why they're getting so much work, is the royal family connection. And because they've released so much already, they need to come up with a brand which enables them them to follow solo projects, which is why we're seeing Meghan going over to Limonada production company, who will host their new podcast away from Spotify, despite the fact that they already got millions of dollars off the Spotify podcast, which did have a fair few critique attached to it for various reasons. But nevertheless, they're going to carry on trying. Well, Meghan's going to carry on trying with her podcast. We obviously saw them at the lead up to the Winter Invictus Games as well this week. So they are doing some things together, but they're realising that perhaps solo projects is the way to go down. As we saw with Harry, he was so successful from a financial perspective with his book, and that was him alone. We're yet to see Meghan do a book. Maybe, I'm sure, there will be meetings discussing should Meghan release a book. But no, she's going to go down the podcast route first, which she's already tried. Well, she's going to try again.
And Pandora, while we're talking about the rebrand, it appears that the initial stages of it haven't maybe gone as well as the Sussexes expected. There is some discussion around the renaming of the children to take the Sussex name instead of Mountbatten Windsor. That's really quite an aggressive move. It's been suggested that Prince Philip wouldn't have been particularly happy with that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is quite a bold move, given the fact that they want the public on their side right now in the UK. Meghan just says it's noise, but I'm sure they do realise they do need us on side slightly, and I'm not really sure this is going to go down well with the royal family. They're yet to say anything on it, and that's sort of been their motto throughout with Harry and Meghan, the occasional statement here or there, but very much keep calm, carry on, silence. Don't say anything about any of their updates, really, as they don't want to feed into it. But listen, they're going down the route of Sussex.com, which leads away from Archerwell, but it all comes into the same website. Everything they've used on there just screams royal household, from the colours, the pictures, and the issue that they're going to have here is look,
Pandora,
I commentate on the royal family.
We need to get to a break. Angela Moller, Pandora Forsyth, thank you so much for your time, ladies. Now, coming up, we'll head to the UK, where royal insider Russell Myers has his say on how Prince Harry and Meghan might be morphing back to royal duties. Welcome back to the show. Joining us now is royal editor for the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers. Russell, lovely to have you back again. And this week, Prince William made a statement on the continuing Israel-Gaza conflict. Now, it seems that any statement on this conflict tends to attract some query and some criticism. What did he have to say, and did he strike the right balance?
Well, hi, Caro. It's great to be back. And yes, certainly your comments are right about any sort of statement, political or otherwise, are certainly controversial in this area. But Prince William releasing this absolutely unprecedented statement, very, very heartfelt indeed, saying that he was deeply concerned about the situation in Gaza. Too many people killed. The reason there's been a lot of controversy about this is because it's straying into the realms of the political commentary, and whether a member of the royal family, such as senior as Prince William, should be doing that. But what he was saying is, from a humanitarian issue, we should all be deeply, deeply concerned. There needs to be more focus on the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding. Too many killed on both sides. The hostages need to be released. And he was reiterating these comments at a visit to the Red Cross HQ in London, and saying he was deeply moved as a father, as a human being. The scenes that he'd been witnessing, the people that he'd been speaking to, the aid workers on the ground, this ever faster relationship between Gaza and the people that are being affected every day. It really is a terrible situation, and I think Prince William was right to speak about it.
Now, the events of the last few weeks seem to show a little bit of a softening, let's say, from the Sussexes towards the rest of the royal family. Now, your masthead, The Mirror, has suggested this week that they're morphing back into being royals. What are the giveaways?
Well, certainly. I mean, there's been a lot of controversy, both sides of the pond, really, for Harry and Meghan, and they're not far from it most of the time. However, my understanding was Prince Harry had expressed his desire to try and take a temporary role back within the royal family. Can you believe that the deal he signed, the Sandringham Summit 4 years ago when they decided to leave the royal family, that he would want to try and come back on that? Now, the late Queen, Prince William, and the then Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, now the King, had told him there was no way you could have an in and out model of the royal family. Harry seems to still think that this could be on the cards. He seems to think that his father's cancer diagnosis, his sister-in-law, the Princess of Wales, has been in hospital out of action as well. That could open a door or an avenue for him. But certainly it's my understanding that the royal family are going to shut that door firmly behind him and say that there is absolutely no place for this in-and-out role model. But they're continuing in Whistler. They were at the Invictus Games 1 year ceremony last week, and certainly they are morphing into this whole new role for themselves, royal or otherwise. So I think it's a very interesting period of time for Harry and Meghan.
As you said, that olive branch offered by Harry seems to be resoundingly rejected, which you can understand. Even Donald Trump has today taken a view on this. Now, Prince Harry, we understand, is against the idea. Do we know precisely the reasoning?
Well, the issue for Prince William is certainly that he feels that his brother needs to come to the table and apologise to the family. You've had, countless TV interviews, starting with the Oprah Winfrey, then the Netflix series, the memoir that absolutely savaged each and every member of his family, and still no accountability from Prince Harry, still no relationship with his brother. I mean, Prince William has got an awful lot on his plate at the moment. He's got his father taking a leave of absence, undergoing cancer treatment. His wife has been in hospital. She's not going to be coming back to royal duties for a fair few weeks at least. And, Harry on the other side of the pond pontificating about how he could sort of save the royal family is certainly not the order of the day for Prince William. And I think that he's been pretty appalled by his behaviour and certainly wouldn't welcome him back. And who could blame him?
It's also been reported this week that Charles had been urged to send Princess Anne to speak with Harry and Meghan. Is this the case? And who would have prompted that course of action?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Certainly, Princess Anne has been described as King Charles's trusted lieutenant. She's the one he used as a sounding board for a lot of issues. Certainly, I imagine, were not only to do with the business of state, but certainly the issues with his family as well. And why wouldn't Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, be sent over? The no-nonsense attitude of Anne would probably shake them and sort of shake their heads and say, listen, we've got to try and work this out with the family. What is it that you necessarily want from your father and your brother? Is it an apology? Is it a sit down? Is it something that sort of can't be brought to the table just for the three men to try and sort their differences out? But I think whether Anne would actually go over speaks volumes, because she definitely does have a relationship with Harry. She was the one who met him at Balmoral when he flew in and when the late Queen was passing away. And certainly she might only be his only ally in the camp at the moment.
As you said, Princess Anne is a very, senior working royal. She absolutely has her finger on the pulse. Now, we understand that she warned King Charles about slimming down the royal family, and those recent health concerns which have sidelined King Charles and Princess Catherine, it seems that those concerns have come to reality. Now, what is the current state of play for the rest of the working royals? And was Princess Anne, was she justified in being concerned?
Well, it's interesting because Princess Anne and King Charles had often spoke about this, and the King's vision has been realised in recent years, mostly by accident rather than design. Certainly, we had Harry and Meghan leaving of their own accord. Prince Andrew had to be booted out in disgrace. Of course, he's taking this leave of absence to undergo cancer treatment. As you said, Princess Kate is on the sidelines for a few more weeks, possibly months as well. And Princess Anne had argued against this slimmed down monarchy, saying, there's not really a lot of us left. There is an awful lot to do, an awful lot of charities, organisations that the royal family have an association with, and it's looking pretty threadbare at the moment. So they're spread very, very thinly. There's not a lot of them to go round. Obviously, there's the issues of how much money they're costing. It's very, very prevalent in conversation here in the UK and abroad. So I think that it's something that possibly the King does consider, and whether to kind of bring some reinforcements in from the sidelines, I'm not too sure, but possibly he's regretting his actions, making it so slimmed down at the moment, because it is looking pretty thin on top.
Now, Queen Camilla has obviously been holding fort during the King's absence from official duties. This week she presented the Queen's anniversary prizes, which have been presented since 1994. Can you tell us about these specific education-related awards?
Well, certainly. I mean, decades long, this incredibly worthwhile award from the Queen's Award, and it looks to invite people who are at the top of their field, university, people studying for PhDs, looking at infectious diseases, trying to solve the problems that really matter throughout the globe. And I think that the Queen welcoming all of these people to Buckingham Palace this week shines a light on the work that the royal family do, and the association that the royal family have, not only with academia, charitable organisations. It's very, very important to shine a light onto these sort of roles. The Duchess of Gloucester was there as well, and I think that this shows a sort of new marrying for the royal family, that the Queen is going to need some support from all quarters, because, as you say, she is the one leading from the front, the King out of action, other senior royals out of action at the moment, and certainly Camilla does need all the help she can get at the moment.
Russell Myers, as always, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, thank you.
Now, before we finish up, we want to tell you about a very noble and very royal-related pursuit, corgi racing. Yep, corgi racing, here it is.
Go, then they're off. Emmett, there goes Ilo. Emmett's in the big lead, and Emmett blows him away. A convincing win for Emmett. Ilo does get second.
Now, I certainly didn't pick corgis as the athletic types, but that would have to be the most endearing attempt at athleticism I think I've ever seen. And that's it from me. I'll be back next week. Up next is the encore of the Sky News documentary MH370, 10 Years On. Good night.